Hi, good morning. So it's a very early morning for you too. Hi, good morning.
Hi. Oh, hi kids. Today we weren't bound. We were, but
Yes, today we're going to learn about intellectual wellness.
what
It is the second part in the wellness series. Last wellness series I did professional wellness, which spoke about basically getting boundaries at your job and also knowing that you are not just your profession, that there is other meaning outside of a job, and you have to look at life holistically. And we're working on making all aspects of our life collectively well, and your job is a major part of who you are. So yes, professional wellness is important for your overall health, because there was an article last year that over 17 teachers died. And I know a lot of other professions are very stressful and have a high mortality rate. So we're working against that. So professional wellness was a series last week. If you missed it, go ahead and check on that. It's on my alternate profile. I'm going to be alternating back and forth because I don't want to give all my attention to one profile because that will defeat the purpose of the two. So, hello, I am Eloise Thomas. I love your name, Eloise. It was my mom's middle name and my daughter's middle name. And Tris_784, good morning. Miss Pinky and everyone else who wave, good morning. So these series are very short series. They're very short lives because I don't want to occupy an hour, 2 hours of your time every week. So I'm just giving short tidbits of certain non-negotiables that I have made in my life. When you do a degree in nutrition and they teach you nutritional coaching, you would find that the degree is not just about food, because how you interact with food is more of a psychological thing. And I learned that further and further into my nutritional degree. I learned that nutrition and diets, like I always say, a diet is a meal plan. It is a menu. That's all a diet is. It's a menu of foods that you should eat any given day. So be careful. And if you were to look at any organization that provides lunch, let's say a school cafeteria or maybe a restaurant, there's a regular menu. You can go and you can look at the list of foods on the menu and you can choose from a variety of options. A meal plan is no different. It is just a set of foods that you eat. Understanding the dynamics of how nutrition works in the rest of our lives, that is when you really understand that diet is not just a menu, because if you were to look at the origins of diet, it is from the Greek Latin word dieteia, which is way of life. So when we looked at nutrition, there were so many different facets that we had to look at, even socioeconomics, professional, cultural. There were so many different facets of nutrition that I realized this is why they say diets don't work. If you look at diets as a menu, just a set list of foods, there are no halo foods. There's absolutely no food that exists that can make you burn fat. Right? Foods don't make you burn fat. Foods are fuel for your body. They are calories. And calories can be turned into fat when not used. So there's no food that you can eat to help you burn fat. And that too, the social and the psychological conditioning that we have around food, a lot of the misconceptions, that is what I'm going to be looking at today. Because intellectual wellness deals with nurturing and nourishing your mind, your intelligence, whether that is your emotional intelligence or your intellectual intelligence. So a lot of the misconceptions that are around food is that if you get a menu or you get a workout list and you just burn more calories than you intake, that you will lose weight. That is the science behind weight loss. That is thermogenics. However, when you look at sustainable weight loss, long-term weight loss, it is not just about eating a certain type of food or burning a certain amount of calories. There are lots of other factors that contribute to your weight loss. Good day, everyone. Illustrated, David, Charles Beckett. Good day. So part of the intellectual wellness that we're looking at is simply just getting, I would say, those life skills that we were not taught. Because a lot of us assume that when you go to school, you learn what you need to know to survive. And that's not the case. When we go to school, we learn what we know, we need to know to get hired. Okay? Schooling is about learning what you need to know to get hired, to find yourself a job in the job market and excel at that job. That's why we go to school, right? But understanding how we should live is not taught at school. That's what they call life school, I guess. So as adults, you really have two options. You can look at how your parents live, or your village, or your community, your neighborhood, and you can live like everybody else. Or you can read and get a certain level of information on how you should balance all these different areas of your life. So intellectual wellness is basically your own homeschooling of how you're going to create the life that you need to create using the skills that you may or may not have learned. So I'll give you an example of one skill. There is a concept in literature, well, English, that I teach when I'm doing persuasive techniques. Now, persuasive techniques are basically techniques that people who are well versed in rhetoric and so on, just persuasive writing, they will use to persuade somebody to adopt their opinion or to do something that they want them to do. And there are lots and lots of persuasive techniques, especially those that are used in the food industry, so commercials, etc. For example, eat whatever you want and still lose weight, or this is a fat burning, most doctors prescribe. Like, all of those are just persuasive techniques. They're not true, they're not factual. But in addition to all of these persuasive techniques, there are also biases that human beings are susceptible to, simply based on how our brain works, right? So I'll give you an example. The other day I was, browsing through the internet mindlessly, and this whole Tupac and Jada's book came out, and there was somebody discussing the validity of her claims. And someone in the comments said, this young lady is a Caucasian, and someone in the comments said that she doesn't feel like she can believe anything this woman says because she's white. And I said, wow, but she could be a fan, because the information that she had, this is somebody who would have followed his life very astutely. So I'm saying she could have just been a fan, and she came with the facts. And she showed dates, she showed time, she had articles, she had pictures, very well researched, I would say. And that is an example of what you call in-group bias. In-group bias is where we are more or less susceptible to believing somebody, whether or not they're presenting factual information, on their proximity to us. So if I'm black and she's black, I'm more inclined to believe the black person over somebody who is non-black, which is not the case, because facts are facts. And these cognitive biases, there are lots of them. For example, the halo effect, that when we like somebody, we are more inclined to believe that person over somebody we may not like. When we like a brand, or if we like a politician or something, we're more inclined to believe that person over somebody else, because we've basically made them an angel. And then there's the opposite of that halo effect, the demon effect, where you vilify somebody because your spirit don't take them and nothing that they say is credible. Or there is also the Dunning-Kruger effect. The Dunning-Kruger effect is like, it's a lot of different effects. I can't remember all of them, but if I see them, I will be able to explain them. I didn't list them because I didn't have any intention of giving this specific example, but just emotional intelligence will help you to understand simple things like that, the biases that you're susceptible to. I know cognitive dissonance is a very popular bias, where because we do something and we don't want to be hard on ourselves for making a bad choice, we convince ourselves that it's a good choice, right? That's another effect that I can remember off the top of my head. But there are a list of 25 and sometimes over, because they keep adding these different types of biases that human beings are susceptible to, which basically explains why we're not rational in our first way of handling situations. We're often not very rational, because to be rational requires us to be logical and have facts, and sometimes we allow the emotional and sometimes even the social and cultural to cloud our judgment. Now, reading up on that would enhance your emotional intelligence, because now you will not be susceptible to some of these biases. So, for example, when somebody says, I hardly eat, okay, like I don't eat much, but they're overweight, right? Then you want to know, well, okay, so what is contributing to the weight gain? Now, yes, there can be hormonal factors, etc., but hormonal factors do not specifically weigh out in the grand scheme of things, which is you don't eat, you lose weight. Somebody with poor thyroid function, etc., if for whatever reason they were to be on a starvation situation, let's say they were locked in a prison or something and they were not being fed, no matter how poorly their thyroid is functioning, eventually they are going to lose weight. The reason for that is when you don't eat, your body goes into a state of autophagy, your immune system revs up, your hormones tend to balance out. So even if you have a thyroid issue, by just simply not getting food and fasting, the thyroid issue will work out itself and your body will start losing weight. That's just the reality about it. You want to lose weight, cut down your calories, right? Put your body in a simulated fast, because fasting is how you lose fat. Fasting is the way you lose fat. You can exercise to increase the amount of calories you burn per day, but no matter how much you exercise, if you replace or replenish those calories, you will not burn fat. If you have PCOS, if you have any issue, any hormonal issue that is preventing you from losing weight, losing fat, again, if you go on an extended fast for whatever reason, let's say you're a spiritual Baptist and you go to mourn, your body is going to work itself out in those 7 days and you will start to see a reduction in fat. That is just the automatic function of your body. You've never seen somebody die of starvation with excess body fat on them. Somebody cannot possibly die of starvation and they are obese with an excess amount of body fat, which proves that no matter what function you have, you can lose weight. You just have to create the conditions in your body. Now, cognitive dissonance will tell you, I don't eat a lot. But then, because you are so blinded by the emotion that I don't want to accept that, yeah, maybe I am the one contributing to my weight loss, we believe this bias. And then we go around blaming diets, blaming thyroid, blaming the 13-year-old baby for baby weight, 13-year-old baby for baby weight, the 13-year-old teenage baby for baby weight. Yes. And we tell ourselves that this is factual. But if we were emotionally intelligent, we would realize what we're saying does not make sense. It cannot be factual. I have to take accountability for my actions. And when I take accountability for my actions, only then will I be able to address the problem. Because then I'll know what is the problem so I can find a solution. So intellectual wellness is part of developing that emotional intelligence that will simply help you to move away from having cognitive biases. I was talking about not eating and simulating fasting and so on. That's another area that intellectual, oh no, I didn't mean to call you out like that. But another area of intellectual wellness would then be, now that you have identified the problem, let's say for example for me, my problem was emotional stress, okay? Emotional stress. Now, I am a very spunky, energetic, gregarious kind of person. I'm all over the place, right? I'm a bit of an introvert, as in I personally love being in my own space. But if you put me out to pasture, I will do the dog. And I don't know if it's just a It's just that I like for people to feel comfortable. I like for people to be in a good mood. I like to always give up my best. I always like to be helpful. So what I found out through intellectual wellness is that I burn myself out. I sip on that coffee and I fuel up and I go the extra mile to my own detriment, right? And this means when I say to my own detriment, even when I'm exercising, yes, I'll make time to exercise, but that exercise did not come because I couldn't finish this assignment at work, or I couldn't help this student with an extra essay that she was doing for a competition, or my son is sick and he needed me, or I had to attend a PTA meeting for my daughter. Listen, you give me a list of 100 things and watch me get it done like a juggernaut, right? Because I'm driven by goals. I'm very task-oriented, very goal-driven, very objective-driven. It's literally my dopamine rush, but I think with all that excess dopamine, I was really depending on adrenaline and everything to drive me. And I started reading this book called The Radical Awakening by Dr. Shivali. And then I realized that I was just doing too much. Like, I didn't need to be superwoman. Nobody put me here and say, show me, save the world. So then I had to be accountable in myself, like prioritize. That was my biggest thing, to prioritize. Like, everything is not a top priority. Everything cannot be top priority. So I had to learn to prioritize. And in learning to prioritize, I had to learn to say no. I had to learn to tell somebody, no, I can't help you. I won't help you, right? Or I don't think that is a valuable use of my time, And that sort of emotional awareness, that consciousness, that did not just spring out of my brain, right? It took a lot of reading. After I read that, I read The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. I read the follow-up book to that, With Everything Is Fucked. I just started reading so many different things, and then I started realizing this is just social problem because, girls are taught to excel. It was an emotional problem that I personally felt like I had to do all of this extra saving of people because I had to be people's savior. And then I had to rewire my brain to understand how to prioritize and how to choose self and how to, understand what would benefit me and what would not benefit me and how I can rewire my brain. So then that led me to read Dr. Julia Spencer, The Placebo Effect, and Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, right? And then I just started reading so many different books. I placed all the books that I read on the highlight that says books I've read, right? And those books that I've read are not just books I've read because I wanted to be part of a group, or I wanted something to pass the time. Each one of those books that I chose was meant to say hi.
Hi. And today we were about the water.
Each one of those books that I read,
They are fair.
Those books were selected based on whatever trauma I was dealing with at the time. And I say trauma in the sense that we are born with trauma even before we come into this world. We have trauma.
Are you my finger?
On in our
Are you
DNA.
my finger? You disappear.
Yeah, you want a marker? You want a marker to draw? Go ahead. That's a bird. So I had to look at all the different areas of my life selectively because it's not. That's the thing. It's intellectual wellness is not overnight. You can't cheat, and that's the thing about weight loss sustainably. If you really want to lose weight and keep the weight off, you have to fix all the areas of your life that contribute to that weight gain.
I made you.
You made me? Where's my hair? Where are my eyes? So after you look at all of the issues that's come, okay, so the first book I read, I started realizing, oh boy, I kind of have this people-pleasing sort of, attitude, and this people-pleasing attitude is not good for me, and so on. Then I decided, okay,
I made you, Mommy.
Hi. Hi, baby. That's so cute. That is me. Look at me, Kaylon. Let me see Kaylon. And I realized that with the people pleasing, I had to learn to say no.
Grandmother did
I
work,
had to
Mommy.
learn to prioritize. I had to learn to restructure my life in a constructive way. So with that, when you start realizing all the things that you need to work on bit by bit, because as you read, you'll get more and more. You have to learn how to restructure your life. So then, with intellectual wellness, it is always advised.
I made me.
Yes, that is you. You always have to. Yes, with intellectual wellness, you always have to do what is called priming. So priming is where you don't let your body go on auto mode. When you're changing your life, the Bible speaks about it. The Bible says to meditate on the words of God every day.
Look, I draw me.
That is Kaylon. He's so cute. Can you write some words for Mommy to spell? So you have to prioritize. Sweetheart. Hello, darling.
Look, I found Mommy.
Sweetheart.
Look, I found Mom.
Yeah, it is. Hi, darling. Sweetie. Sir. Hi, darling. Young man.
Look, I made cake for me.
Kaylon, could you go touch this young man? Wait, please, you cannot hear me. Morning. I'm doing a video. Thank you. Sorry about that. I'm at work and there's a lot going on and I just need to get this live over with because I have so many things to do today. My daughter's playing a football match and I don't want to miss it. It's at 2 o'clock at Calico. So that's why I'm doing this live now. So yes, as I was saying, intellectual wellness. When you're trying to restructure your life and rewire your brain, rewiring your brain is the way in which they explain making new neural connections differently than the ones that you've already been trained to make. So you have to basically restructure the way your brain thinks because that's how you think. Your brain makes neural connections between the synapses, messages are sent back and forth, and it's like a big web network. So in order for you to change the way you think about food, think about life, think about these emotional habits that are contributing to your overeating or your overindulging or the binge and purge process, you have to rewire how you think about a lot of things. And you can't just wake up and say, I'm a new person today. As the Bible said, like I said, meditate on the words of God every day so that you will not backslide. It's the same thing with whatever life change that you're making. You have to meditate on the information. You have to constantly force the information into your brain to continuously remind yourself that this is the new modus operandi. So you call that priming. So each morning when I get up, yes, I will do my devotions, I would do my meditation, I would do my yoga, I will do some Bible readings for the morning, and I will pray. After I do that, I will put on my speaker and I will find a podcast or some video motivational speech concerning the topic, even if I need to watch a health seminar. Kaylon, come inside, come. Even if I have to watch a health seminar, I've watched so many health seminars. Sometimes I will even watch like Harvard University will have different courses on different things. I will just put on something that is towards my intellectual growth and I will just listen to that. When I listen to that, when I leave from my house, I go in the car on the Bluetooth speaker. Again, whatever podcast, whatever it is I'm listening to. When I'm finished there, I am already aware of why I'm not going to be overeating at work. I'm already aware of why I'm not going to be people pleasing. I'm already going to take a break and contemplate whether something is lucrative or viable for me to dedicate my time to before I say yes. I have reinforced all of the things that I need to do for the day just by listening to this thing on mornings. When I come to work during my lunchtime, if I'm fasting, I will journal. I will journal whatever thoughts, whatever revelations that I have. So it's as if I'm constantly counseling myself. Now there's something called talk therapy where you go and you just talk out your emotions and then the psychologist will help you process them. But you don't need a psychologist to help you process your own thoughts. You can just have musings or gnosis and just think and then replay your thoughts and build on your wisdom. And because you're already aware of cognitive biases, when your thoughts come to you, you're not just gonna run with them. You know what you're gonna do? Research. So the more you learn about yourself, the more you actually get to research. So I might start looking at certain things. For example, one of the things that I had to research was understanding different meal times, right? So I read somewhere that when you eat is as important as what you eat. And I had to start looking at eating times and so on. Now, this sort of science is not in the allopathic realm. So if you speak to any medical doctor, they're gonna tell you, oh, just don't eat after 6. Some of them may tell you eating after 6 may not get you fat and all of these different things. But I had to let go of my bias against Western medicine, and I had to go looking at Ayurvedic concepts of diet. And so I had to go reading Ayurvedic dieting styles, and I learned about the Kapha and the Pitta and the Vita body types, and when they should eat based on the sun and based on the moon phases and all of these things. And then when I did that, I realized, wow, human eating, human diet, human body changes, the biology is dependent on the moon and is dependent on the sun. Like right now you are learning that the sun is sending a lot of solar flares to earth, but these things have always occurred. I guess because they are so terrible and they're increasing very rapidly in their strength and so on, they're now telling you about it. But these solar flares are followed throughout Indian and Hindu culture. They focus a lot on the sun, the positioning of the sun, to know when to hydrate, what foods to eat so that they can be able to endure. You know, some days everybody has a headache. Oh my God, my head is hurting, my head is hurting. I remember a couple months ago, I told one of my co-workers, we're gonna get a major solar flare on Monday, so please remember, hydrate, etc. These are things I tell my co-workers. And it was about the Tuesday, 3 people died that day. And she was like, I wonder if because these were like elderly people and they just succumbed. They just had like a stroke, I guess. And I said, yeah, I did warn you that strokes and headaches and dehydration and these things are likely at this time. So recently I see that the Ministry of Health has been putting out a lot of information about solar flares and the effects on people. Again, yes, that's what happens. The moon phases as well. If the moon phases can affect the ocean, which is 70% water. So the moon phases affect the ocean, which is 70% water. If I were to cut a bamboo during a full moon, the bamboo would rot because the water content in the bamboo would be so high that it would be too moist and the bamboo would rot quickly. When I'm going to harvest bamboo, I have to cut it when the moon is new moon. It's last quarter of new moon, because that's when the water content is least. So clearly, all the things other than the ocean on earth that is liquid is affected by water. Now, you hear people complain about knee pain during full moon. Knee pain, inflammation. Inflammation is pus in your body, as we call it, pus. But it's that lymph liquid that helps our body heal, that's inflammation. It would make sense that during a full moon, inflammation, the viscosity would be heavier, it would be denser, it would be much more, and it will create more pain. That's one way. During a full moon, a woman who is pregnant has a lot of amniotic fluid. They always say that during a full moon, animals and women give birth. Right? Because again, the heaviness of the water is affected by the gravitational pull of the moon, just like the ocean. So even looking at our cycle, women are connected to nature. Women are so connected to nature that our menstrual cycles align with the cycles of the moon. And even when women hang around other women, our menstrual cycles sync up. We are so connected to nature that we are even connected to each other. It's a web connection, and women have this connection more so than men. And women deal with emotional situations more, more sporadically than men. But just looking at something as simple as stepping away from my cultural way of understanding food and nutrition to go to, astrology, or to go to the Ayurvedic traditions, even Chinese traditions, they follow the same concept of following the moon. That's why in those countries they still use almanacs. Right? Long ago we only used almanacs as farmers. Why would farmers need almanacs? Because nature, the soil, affects the crops, and they understood that nature, that extraterrestrial and terrestrial connection, the lunar connection, the solar connection to terra. So that was something that I also had to go deep researching into, just so that I can understand certain things like eating times and certain foods pertaining to certain body types, based on what body types prefer what particular eating times based on their biology. You made it red, it's so cute. Based on their biology. So again, intellectual wellness will give you
I
wealth
got
of
her
knowledge.
card. Oh, red.
Yes, you can. And intellectual wellness is really just exposing yourself to the types of information that's not only going to teach you the skills you need to overcome your problems, but also a lot of solutions. They will teach you ways in which other people who changed their mindset to adopt this new skill from an old way worked for them. They'll give you a lot of self-help books by psychologists, will give you a lot of cases, like case studies. They had this patient who had this issue, who had that issue. Some self-help books will look at it from a personal perspective. Hi everyone who's waving, thank you for joining the live. So with this intellectual wellness, we learn not only ourselves, where we become emotionally intellectual, but then as we learn about ourselves and we start scrutinizing ourselves and start seeing areas in ourselves where we can improve, that's when we start getting the intellectual wellness, where the intellectual intelligence is enhanced, when we seek out logical and factual information that supports the solutions that we need to make our lives, the dream life, a reality. So some of the things that, like I said, I did was read self-help books. I listened to self-help podcasts. I listened to a lot of psychological podcasts, a lot of psychiatrists. My favorite is Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson and Dr. Shafari, I will always say those two people, they are changing millions of lives. But there are also a lot of other spiritual people who have also guided me, like Jay Shetty, Deepak Chopra, Sadhguru, T.D. Jakes. There is this other Spanish guy, can't remember his name, but his sermons on marriage are excellent. Even just, different people. I know some people, they're very hesitant to believe people, but that, again, that's the in-bias group. That's the in-group bias, where because I don't know them or they're not from St. Vincent, I cannot learn anything from them. But there are lots of people out there who are struggling with the life issues, right? Understanding, prioritization, etc. Those are skills that are not taught in school. They hope that you develop those skills, and some of us execute those skills in certain areas where we were taught to exercise those skills. So for example, if you know you're going to university, you're going to go to university, do your work, get a degree. You will read as long as you have to be graded. But to read personally, that's the duster. But to read personally for your own edification, you will not.
Is it a magnet?
No, neither. It has a magnet, but it's not your magnet. You have to look at those things, like why is it so easy for me to read when I have an assignment or I have to do work for a course, but for me to sit and actually read something for my own learning, it's tedious and it's arduous. It's because we have not developed the skill of reading. We're just doing the reading out of necessity because we have learned to prioritize education, but we have not learned to prioritize edification. We have prioritized schooling, right? But not, as I say, learning. So those are some of the things that I did. And when you involve yourself in these wide variety of areas, spiritual, you become spiritually intellectual, you become nutritionally intellectual because you learn the facts about proper eating and how your body works and how you should eat. When you learn about, you become financially intellectual and you learn how to budget, and so then you won't be complaining about food and food prices. Well, you still complain because it's pretty high, but at the same time you won't be complaining that you can't eat the way that you're supposed to eat because of money. Because you will find a way, to cut back, you'll find a way to enhance. And sometimes eating healthy is actually cheaper than how we already eat, Because to tell you, eat a KFC, that's about $20 for a 2-piece. But to tell you, green banana, callaloo, and 2 egg is a fully nutritious meal, you would watch me like, but if you can get green banana for almost free, depending on where you live in Stevenson. You can ask somebody for hand banana, you can plant a hand banana. You can get provision, you can get callaloo. All of those things are things you can chuck in the ground, or you at least know somebody who can get some relatively cheap because they live in the countryside, etc. So it's just a matter of sitting down and being able to strategize your life. That is something that you could learn just by becoming more intellectual in the areas that you need to. Prime every day. So every day, instead of engaging in mindless conversation with people, engage in the content that is towards the improvement of your life. Right? You spend so much time dedicated to subjects so that you can get a job. And you go to the job and you don't even like the job. Now, spend your days dedicating it to learning about how to curate the life that you want. Listen to investment podcasts, read investment books, whatever you need to do. And reading also occupies your mind. So as you read, you won't be as bored, so you won't feel to snack. If you're listening to a podcast and you're deeply engaged in the podcast, you're not going to feel to snack the way you may snack if you're watching a series, right? So when you listen to these things and you engage your mind, sometimes you may even forget to eat and you may be able to fast that extra hour or that extra 2 hours because you're so engaged in the information. And then there's a saying that goes, when you know your why, your how is easy. So as long as you know why these things are important for you to learn and why you need to know these things, eventually the how becomes easy. You learn how to get these things done and how important it is for you to get these things done. And you learn how to fix the situations in your life. Now, the last thing that I would also tell you is, in addition to rewiring your brain, the more you improve your brain is the more your brain seeks improvement, because of your reticular activating system. Now, your reticular activating system is a system where your body basically filters out the data that it collects. You'd hear 1,000,001 sounds, see 1,000,001 images, smell 1,000,001 scents, sense 1,000,001 things through your intuition, taste 1,000,001 things, but our mind selectively chooses what receptors we're gonna send the messages to. So you'll be in a situation where you didn't really pay attention to something, as you would say, didn't pay attention to it. That's not because your brain didn't see it or your eyes didn't see it. But let's say, for example, somebody comes and said, oh, I'm looking for this green duster that was on the table. Automatically, that green duster that you did not focus on, you say, wait, I do remember seeing it, whatever. Now the information that your brain dismissed now has relevancy because somebody questioned about it, and then it recalls the data and it sends it out. If your brain is to register every single sound, every single sight, it would be overload, and you wouldn't be able to function. That would be sensory overload. Sometimes people who have sensory overload are people who are like, they have psychosis and so on. So your brain does a very good job at filtering out information that it finds irrelevant. Now let us say, for example, you start putting information in your brain like, I want a Louis Vuitton bag. All of a sudden you're gonna realize, oh my gosh, there's a bag in that commercial. Oh, look, this movie I'm watching, that's the bag that I want. Oh, look, this girl down the street, she has a bootleg version to the same bag I want. Oh, look, this store in town selling the same bag. You know how long I said I want that? That's not because the bag didn't exist in these commercials or in the store, etc. before. What happens is your reticular activating system is now like an antenna tuned into anywhere and anything that is going to give you data on the Louis Vuitton bag. It's called the Reticular Activating System. Now with your Reticular Activating System, you can hack it so that you can get a better understanding of life. So for example, if you say, I want money, I know the big manifesting of money is a big thing. And I think half of the reason why I'm not a millionaire by now is because I really don't really have that deep need for millions of dollars. I've never seen myself as the kind of person who needs millions of dollars, because I know if I have millions of dollars, it would not last. I'll take the money, I'll go build a school and blow about 800,000 of it on a school, and then, try to have disenfranchised children come to the school, or probably build an orphanage, because St. Vincent does not have an orphanage. Could you believe that? Or women's shelter. So I know you can't give me $1 million, it would not last, because I just see usefulness to do with money, and I can't afford money like that. And I know that's part of the reason why I'm not a millionaire. But I digress. Let's say you want to make more money. When you activate your reticular activating system, as in you prime your brain every day to be more financially conscious, to be more financially literate, to be more financially intellectual. This concept of what people say, manifest, it sounds like a hocus pocus kind of thing, like, oh, thank you. It sounds like hocus pocus, oh, we manifesting. It must come from God. It must come from the universe. It must come from all of these things. Listen. Manifesting is literally a psychological thing where you tell your brain, this is what I really, really want. You create the chemical environment. So you basically create an emotion called serotonin. Serotonin is your task. You colored it all red.
Yeah, all red.
When you go, you can go and I am right on the board. Mom is gonna finish soon. And then we're gonna do some reading and some math, okay? When you tell your brain, I'm really sorry for the interaction, but he's with me to this. Sorry. Yes. So when you tell your brain, this is what I want more money, I want to be more financially literate, you start reading more information, the data is going to make sense. It's not going to just be information you hear that's going to blow over your head. For example, all of these banks that are closing down in St. Vincent, I saw FCIB, for St. Vincent Bank lost its license and so on. If you are very financially conscious, as St. Vincent is not, people will realize that there's a serious economic change that is going on, a global economic change. And a lot of things that we are seeing is not just, random information. They're actually very important information that we should be. Thank you for that. Very important information that has serious effects on us, because, I won't go into it, but right now the global financial issues that are happening should be on everybody's priority list, but because we're not financially literate in St. Vincent, and we actually have the lowest financial literacy rate in financial literacy percentage in the Eastern Caribbean, according to a study, we are not aware of the economic challenges that are about to be upon us if certain things happen overnight. But we live happily because we have not activated that part of our brain to be attuned to certain things. So when you manifest, it is simply just priming your brain to be very keen to the things. It's like if I were back in agrarian times. I know if I don't plant, my family would starve. Automatically, I would look for the sun every day. I would look for the moon every night. I would look for the rain clouds. I would know when to till. I would be very cautious about, weather systems and so on. I would be very attuned to these things because I want my crop to grow, and that is how I manifest. Or the Bible will say, faith without works is dead. So faith is the belief that you can do it. But without works, without going out there and getting the data, without going out there and accessing the information, practicing the skills, doing the things that you need to do to go along with the feeling, it's never going to happen. So manifesting weight loss is just, I'm going to sit here and I'm just going to eat off of this menu because I believe in myself. But then as soon as the menu starts to get a little challenging, you tell yourself, I can have a cheat meal, or I can have this, or I exercise and I can do that. And you're not going to manifest because you tell yourself you're going to do something, you have a lot of faith, and then you fail to do the works. So faith without works is dead, and works without faith is vanity. So at the end of the day, you activate your reticular activating system. It starts pulling data from everywhere it needs to pull data to get you the information you need to make changes in your life. You start seeing opportunities for business. You start seeing opportunities for collaboration, opportunities for networking, opportunities for saving. And then all of a sudden you start getting a little bit more money bit by bit by bit. Manifestation. Just because you've primed your brain to achieve the goal that you have set. Vision boards and all of that. All of those vision boards is basically putting a blueprint in your brain, telling it what it is supposed to be doing. So instead of focusing on Real Housewives or the latest gossip on Jada and Will and this debacle, I haven't even gotten into the whole thing. I fell asleep halfway through the video that I was watching with the Jada and the woman thing that I was talking about. I still don't even know the whole story. But some people can tell you the whole story back and front because they prime their brain for drama. And guess what? When you prime your brain for drama, you're telling your brain to create drama. So then you go home in your homes and you create drama. When you create drama, your hormones are affected. And when your hormones are affected, you overeat. And when you overeat, you gain weight and can't lose weight. That's how it works. It's a whole chain reaction. So if you don't prime your brain for drama, don't prime your brain for gossip, you know what you're going to find? Other things that are more beneficial to your life. So the Bible says again, I like to use the Bible a lot because all of these spiritual things I have found the scientific things to back it up. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. I repeat that, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Right? So you can't tell me that you think you're a good person, but you go out there and in your actions, you prime your brain for a lot of negativity. You have to be a positive person and be a positive person, like in everything that you do, because that's what you prime your brain to look for. If you think in your heart that I really need to be more disciplined in my eating, I'm going to have cheat meals and all of that, what benefit would this be? The mere fact that you're going to cheat, I always tell women, I say, why is it that whenever it comes to dieting, cheating is a good thing, but as soon as it comes to your relationship, it is the worst thing? Cheating is cheating, and the same effects that cheating will bring in your relationship and your marriage is the same effect it's going to bring towards your weight loss goals, towards your money goals, towards whatever goals that you set. Cheating literally means what it means. And the same reason why it negatively affects your relationship is the same reason it's going to negatively affect everything else, because it is going against what you're supposed to be doing for your greatest benefit or your greatest good. That's what cheating is. So when you say you're having a cheat meal, you're basically saying I'm having a meal that is not going towards my greatest benefit or my greatest good. Is that somebody who's really interested in losing weight, or is that somebody who wants to tell themselves that they're doing enough without actually seeing the results to corroborate that they're doing what they're supposed to? intellectual wellness. You learn yourself, you learn how to fix yourself, and then you learn how to fix your life based on what you need to do to create the lifestyle that you want. It's not gonna happen overnight. And the reason why it will not happen overnight, I make it sound like it's easy, but I don't want anybody to walk away thinking that it's easy. Because rewiring the brain, rewiring the way you think, some of the things that you will be thinking will be things that you learned in childhood. You learn from your mother, you learn from your family, you learn from your culture, you learn from a child growing up, you learn from society. It is reinforced by society. It is continuously perpetuated by society. It's not that easy to rewire your brain. You might be thinking, I'm doing better, and then you may go with that ego. I'm doing better, because you might have changed one or two things. But you can never know the extent of things that you need to change until you start seeing actual results. Right? So when you ask me with my millions, you already know she has decided to not build school and orphanage, which I don't think will ever happen. I really, really want to build an orphanage and a women's shelter. And I really think they can be built together. And the women can help out with the orphans whenever they're there. And I really think it could be a really good thing if we have an orphanage and a women's shelter. But St. Vincent is a different kettle of fish. Probably might be out of here before that even come to pass, because things are getting very hard in here. You understand? But I love my little St. Vincent. I love my nature. I like the accessibility to organic food. I like the simple living and so on. But I think a lot of it can be changed if more of us focus on that intellectual wellness. Read widely. Recognize that when you went to school, you did not learn what you needed to learn to live. You learn what you needed to learn to get a job. Right? Now that you have your job, you have to seek out information to learn how you need to live in order to create your best reality, your best dream reality. And intellectual wellness can help you with that. So that is the end of my life. I hope it has been convincing. Those of you who wish to know some of the books that I read, I placed a review on a couple books that I've read. I'm in the process of compiling my list, but I usually compile my list by the year. So I'll read a set of books for the year, and then I will compile the list of books in my journal for the year, and then I will post as I go along on social media. So I'm in the process of compiling a new list, but you can look at my list of books from the previous year, and you will see the list of books that I read. You will also see my very brief review of my takeaway from the book. You would see that it's a wide variety of things. There were things about relationship, things about parenting, spirituality, money, weight loss, health issues, finance, professional stuff like teaching stuff. So there's a wide variety of books that I would have read, and all of those books were chosen based on either a recommendation from somebody who I know reads books, because I know Melissa Abbott, which is my sister-in-law, she reads a lot of books, and sometimes we'll exchange books. She had put me onto a really good book called The Surrender Experiment by this guy, Michael Singer. I had read his first book, Untethered Soul, but that one was a really good one that she had suggested to me. Yafet Niles used to suggest books to me as well. She reads as well. She would have put me onto quite a lot of books, especially Ikigai. Ikigai is about understanding your profession. So merging your life purpose with your profession. That book is called Ikigai. Lots of other things. My husband, especially Marshall reads as much as I do, and we'd often suggest books to each other. Right now he's reading a book on Stoicism. I'm reading a book called I Am, about a divorced woman and how she made money by being friends with a single woman who had money. So she recognized that women who have a family tend to have a hard time getting money, and women who have an easy time getting money have a hard time maintaining relationships. So she basically looked at how these two women compromise and don't compromise in their life. And she realized that the choices that single women who are chasing money would make in order to get the money, these are a lot of non-negotiables for married women with children and so on. Like, they'll never ever do anything to give up the bag, and the married mother would always put family first. So it's about finding that balance, that work-life balance, basically. So that's the book that I'm reading now. It's called I Am, and my husband is reading a book on stoicism. But you know, we often post the books that we read, and I give my little review. So you can start looking through the books and see if anyone stands out at you. If you want us to start a book club, I can easily come on here and do a little reading from time to time. My friend, Dr. Jose Davies, she has a lovely book called Life Knows, a book of quotes. And those quotations are very good at stimulating journal entries. Many of my journal entries of a couple months ago would have come from her book, because as I read the quotations, I would often start my own internal musing, my own introspection. And then I will, you know, go off on a tangent in my journal while I meditate and so on. So there are lots of different books there, and that book Life Knows, that's locally. Somebody said yes to the book club. I'm a literature major, you know. I teach literature, I'm a literature major. I love reading. So if y'all tell me about this book club, y'all not gonna jump on this live here reading books and having whole podcast discussions, because I've been waiting for a reason to do a podcast. I said nobody really gonna come and listen to a podcast about nutrition. I was thinking about doing one with my husband just about family, but I'm like, not many married people around, and single people are always coming to have some argument about what married people. I was like, I'm not trying to entertain that energy, but our book club, oh yes. So I would love to do that if you all need a little motivation. I love that. I love books. Yes, give me all the books, Mimsy said. I love that. So if you all need a little reading motivation, you all need company to, like, you know, select certain books and actually engage in discourse so you will not become bored. All of these things are important, you know, because as I say, as you're rewiring your brain, you need support, you need external support, because you can't go it alone. You can't see yourself. You know, sometimes if you have a good friend there to tell you, girl, you ain't saying you're going on diet and you're here eating, you're not supposed to eat them things. You understand? At least not now. Wait until, you know, your thyroid gets a little better. Wait until you're at your goal weight, or wait until your body's... If you have a friend who is supportive like that, then your friend now has that same RAS tune to your life, so that's now an extra antenna. So you tell her, I want to lose weight, her antenna is going to stick up everything that you do that is counterproductive to your life. She's gonna help you, he's gonna help you. So you have not only your reticular activating system, but your friend, your mommy, your children. Everybody is just this collective community coming together to helping you achieve your goals. So if you all need a book club, let me know. I'm excited about that. And yeah, continue improving yourself, and I'll continue giving my time. Hi Gary, how are you doing? Thank you so much for stopping in. I appreciate. We're doing a little session on intellectual wellness. It's part of my wellness series. So I did professional wellness last week, and I'm doing intellectual wellness this week. Next week we're gonna look at social wellness. So thank you for stopping by. So thank you everyone. This is the end of the live really, because I already said what I had to say, and I think I have been on here for quite a while. I try to make it short, but there's been a lot of distractions and a lot of information. So thank you so much for tuning in. I do appreciate all the support that I get from you. It is my hope that the information I share with you can add enrichment and fulfillment and enlightenment to your life, so that we can all be happy and healthy and well together. Continue to inform your wellness, and join me next time on my next wellness session next week, Thursday. Have a good one. Remember to tune in on Praise FM at 2 o'clock to hear my wellness, my little wellness segment. Today we're looking at men's nutrition. Last week we looked at nutrition for women. This week we're looking at nutrition for men. So tune in on Praise FM at 2 o'clock and you can hear that. I will try to get a recording of last week because we did have a recording last week. So I am going to try to source that when I go to the studio today. I'm going to remind Donnie to give me that information. But have a good one, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Be blessed and stay blessed.